Retribution is the single worst thing to happen on a wrestling program this year. At least, that's not named Katie Forbes. I'm John Ritland with my review of WWE Raw, and look, this show wasn't even that good, but you know what? It was kind of okay for a while. It was a little messy, but the fact that they have to keep going with the group that calls themselves Retribution and Raw Underground and putting Lana in the goddamn ring, which might be the most offensive thing of all, this show is just not compelling. Vince McMahon does not care about putting on compelling television anymore. He's just happy with his 2.3 million people that are going to keep tuning in. And I want to keep supporting the talents that I really enjoy, but my fucking God, this show was rotten. This show was goddamn rotten because the ending and the Retribution involvement in general just fucking killed it. It killed any goodwill that the show had. Vince McMahon is a goddamn, he's a poison to wrestling now. Besides the record profits that WWE has, what good has he done? Bruce Pritchard hasn't done any goddamn good since coming back to WWE. Alright, let's just get right into this show of Raw in your face. It wasn't like a 3D version of Raw. That sounds like something else. Cole, Byron, and Ziggler on commentary, and then MVP joined later, because Ziggler had to go be part of Raw Underground. You know, that concept that hasn't gotten any better in the last couple months. So, here's a question. 10 to 20 million people out of work, and Michael Cole somehow still has a job. I mean, Michael Cole's been a lifer in WWE, but he at one point said Ivar injured his cervix. Ivar injured his cervix. He then corrected himself to say cervical, but Michael Cole is really bad at his job. He does not deserve to be on commentary anymore. He's atrocious. He's fucking rotten. I hate Michael Cole. Fans should tell him that they hate him, at least as a commentator. As a person, I don't really fucking care about him as a person. He can go home and be with his wife and child. I don't know how somebody so goddamn dickless and so goddamn ballless was able to father a kid, but whatever, I digress. I don't know if you can tell, but I really don't like Michael Cole because he's a terrible commentator. So it opens with the lightning and thunder and the spoopiness because they're in the Thunderdome. We can't get me on Thunderdome yet. Recaps of the Drew Orton stuff, fine, where Orton gave it back, he gave him 3 RKOs. And Drew did the whole crap thing, giving it back times 3 with 3 Claymores. Drew then slams Orton, not literally, but verbally, because Orton isn't there because he's all injured. He might not make it to the Clash. And then talks about the match at the Clash and says, all the Claymore victims, because Orton did the same thing with Photoshop. Pierce is here. Hey, well, Orton might not make it, so how about if Lee beats you tonight, he gets a shot at the championship at the Clash. Okay, cool. Then he can be the WWE champion. You can already hear the collective groans, and I don't even have a live audience. So here's Lee. We get a weird, cut to commercial after doing a handshake, we're friends. I know that they were probably friends when Drew was out for a number of years. He was out for a few years on the indies, building himself back up and doing some really good work. But they never established that these guys were friends beyond, a couple things when Drew got injured, or, Drew got the fractured jaw. I don't understand why in the world they're doing that. And also, Drew doesn't have a fractured jaw. There's no way he'd be doing this shit if he did. So, here's 2 profits, many cups. And then the 2 girls, 1 cup. I'm going to keep making this as uncomfortable as possible. Here's a question. They took on Nakamura and Cesaro, by the way. Why does Montez wrestle and act like he took about 50 pills worth of trucker speed? There's energetic, and then there's literally, something's wrong with him. Is he okay? This match was fine. It was champions versus champions. We get Dawkins with a blind tag and a frog splash, 1, 2, 3. The match really wasn't anything special. Wasn't bad. Cesaro got a few, hard shots in. And Nakamura just looked like he was happy to be there. And then we have Garza flirting with Lana because Lana's talking about, Natalia's the boat, the best of all time. Somebody should send her out on the Jaws boat. And I mean Lana, not Natalya. I like Natalya. Then again, Lana serves a purpose. It's just not a very good one. She's just making people long for having Sable back because at least Sable got ratings and knew when to get the fuck out of wrestling because Sable didn't belong in wrestling and neither does Lana. I'm sorry, she doesn't. She's fucking rotten. So, we got this thing where Garza's flirting with Lana and then Zelina's upset and then Zelina finally says, I've had enough of Garza and Andrade because they're both there. She's had enough of being in the middle of 2 guys that keep fighting. And then they start brawling. And Zelina just takes off, and we get to see Zelina a little bit later. We then get, okay, the Hurt Business. Cedric cutting a pretty decent promo talking about how he was sick of being held down, sick of being abandoned, this kind of stuff, and now he has friends that these are his friends. He can, he can grow. He can grow in the Hurt Business. He can grow his own business. He can, I don't know, he can grow weed. Maybe that's the kind of Hurt Business. You won't hurt anymore if you do that. Don't do drugs, kid. Don't know what I'm on about, but you know what? This show really was kind of wild and kind of not good, so I figured I'll just make some jokes. Here's Apollo and Ricochet. You were my brother, Anakin. You were my brother. And stabbed me in the back. You would think, knowing stuff about Ricochet, that he wouldn't have minded getting it that way, but moving on. Ricochet, by the way, chasing, the victory here against Cedric. We have a match, and look, I'm going to keep calling him that until he apologizes for being associated with Chase and Rant. Same with anybody else that was at what was formerly Team Vision Dojo, and it's got another name now that I didn't write down, but if you find out, please make sure to let the authorities know that piece of shit should not be allowed in wrestling. Don't care if he served his time. Pedophiles do not belong in wrestling, and they fucking don't, especially convicted ones, or any of them. Moving on. Erik and Lashley suddenly battle backstage because they're going to have a match a little bit later, and then the match was okay. Ricochet did sell the hell out of the lumbar check. That was pretty impressive. 1, 2, 3. And then, suddenly, the group that calls themselves Retribution appeared on screen. It's Dijakovic, Yim, Mercedes, Dio, Shane Thorne, possibly Miz and Mojo. Cool. Alright, they really didn't do a very good job hiding this. I mean, granted, we've already known about these names for a while. But you thought that they would have had some other black guy. But it was him, Dio. I really kind of ruined that right there because I can't do the voice. Yeah, they talk about how they're going to, take over and everything. And Retribution is the least fearsome faction that has ever existed in wrestling. Least fearsome. Less fearsome than League of Nations. Less fearsome than Aces and Eights. At least with Aces and Eights, they kind of had some storyline going. I mean, they totally lost the plot because they couldn't keep people employed because, Dixie Carter. But at least it was a decent invasion storyline. It didn't make sense, but it was kind of well done. At least for a little bit. Retribution's fucking bullshit. Nothing that they have done has been good. The reveal's not going to fucking matter. Mia Yim, okay, let's just go off on a brief rant here. Mia Yim was featured in a feud with Candice and actually got to team with her real-life boyfriend. I think they're only dating, maybe engaged. None of my business, but happy for him. Keith Lee. And she's competed in other matches. Dijakovic had that great series of matches with Keith Lee and then got choked up by Karrion Kross. And then you got, if Miz is part of the group, Miz has actually been featured pretty damn well. Mojo, I mean, no offense against Mojo, but nobody's really cared about him. Mercedes just had a great cage match against Rhea Ripley. Dio is also there because he hasn't really been featured all that well. Shane Thorne is also there. This group doesn't make sense. There's no end game. It's fucking bad. It's not like Ender's Game. Thank God it's not like Ender's Game. That movie sucked. Retribution is the worst thing to happen on a wrestling program. It's worse than anything on the worst stuff on AEW. It's worse than anything. It's worse than when they continued the Lana Lashley Rusev wedding thing for a while. When they continued that bullshit, it was worse than that. And that's saying something. They somehow managed to make something worse than that. Congratulations, Vince. So, we get the Hurt Business offering to, basically offering security to Pierce for a price. And also earlier, Mickie talked about maybe having her one last shot against Asuka. Now we get Asuka versus Mickie, Raw Women's Championship. They kept making it seem like Mickie was really old and seasoned, and Mickie is 41. But they kept making it seem like Asuka was really, really young. Now, age is just a number. Mickie moves really well despite all her injuries, and the fact she's been doing this for so damn long. Asuka is 9 months, she's 9 months younger than I am. 9 months. I was born in the beginning of January. I think she was born at the end of September, so actually almost 9 months. So just to give you an idea. Nothing wrong with that. Both ladies are in phenomenal shape and could easily wrestle for another 10 years if they really wanted to, as long as their bodies hold up. But it's not like one is 41 and one is 22. I'm just saying. So the match was good though, but then it got awkward. It got really, really awkward, because it was fabulous for a while, and then it seemed like they kind of lost the plot. Some weird near falls. It kind of, the ref not seeing a rope break, and then not seeing a pinfall, and then not seeing this, and Asuka lock. It looked like Mickie was going to get the tap out, and then either the referee screwed up, or Mickie was just knocked out at one point, and maybe like had a concussion, and the referee had to call the bell. Mickie looked legit confused, like, what the hell are you doing? He called for the bell. Mickie James can no longer continue. It was the most awkward goddamn finish. It made no sense. I mean, poor Mickey. I mean, I hope she's okay. She rolled out of the ring and he was checking her, so hopefully she actually is okay and she didn't suffer any kind of injury or, head trauma, whatever. Hopefully she's all right. But that was just very, very odd. It was very badly done. And then Zelina Vega shows up and slaps Asuka because Zelina wishes to go back to the land of Oz and basically be, cast there forever because she ain't going to be back in this mortal realm anytime soon when Asuka's done with her. Also, is Asuka going to get, arrested for child abuse? I kid. Children are bigger than Zelina. So moving on. Charlie then takes a shot at Zelina, talking about, Zelina may not have a shot against Asuka, and then interviews Keith Lee about his friendship with Drew that we all knew about. And then Ivar injured his cervix. Once again, 10 to 20 million people unemployed, and Michael Cole somehow still has a job, despite the fact that he can't commentate for one God fucking damn it. Michael Cole's one of the worst abominations on commentary. I hate him. Have I mentioned that I hate Michael Cole as a commentator? I need to emphasize that. So we get Erik versus Lashley. MVP joins commentary. I'm just going to call it the Hurt Cock. I might as well call it that instead of the Hurt Lock because it's like the Hurt Locker, and I don't want to remind myself of that movie as good as it was. And MVP actually joined commentary for the rest of the night, and cool, Lashley won. Fine. Viking Raiders are fucking ruined, by the way. They're fucking ruined. They're just done. Even if Ivar comes back, just send him packing. Let him go back to New Japan. Let him go to AEW. No, just done. Just don't. You can't fucking rehab him. The Viking experience, all that shit. It's just, man, so bad. The Cervix experience. Hopefully not that. Then Owens talks about Alistair and how he was not happy that 40% off Hot Topic coupon would not be honored and a whole bunch of other stuff. And then Alistair shows up. Snake! And then Braun yells at Shane, whining in the Raw Underground. Rollins and Murphy discuss the beating last week, and then Rollins treats Murphy rough, shoving him into a locker and beating him up. No, you need to stay back here. You need to learn for the greater good. And then we get Truth and Liv fighting over chocolate. Basically, we get, it's a Kit Kat advertisement. Mandy is drafted to Raw. That means that Otis is drafted to Raw, probably. They're probably going to draft Heavy Machinery last minute. And watch them have Otis cash in Money in the Bank at the Clash on either Drew or Orton, or watch them do it on Keith Lee. Watch them do that. Watch them have Keith Lee win. Watch them do a triple threat. Keith Lee wins it, and then Otis cashes in. And you just fucking torpedo it right there, and you create the worst WWE champion ever. Otis as WWE champion, by the way, it won't happen. Would be worse than Jinder. It would be 100% worse than Jinder. And that's saying something. So, moving on. The grandmother Mysterio was there. I know it's his mother, but she looks about 75 years old. Needs more lemon pledge. Dominik with his family versus Rollins with Murphy. And I'm sorry, this was a mess. It wasn't bad, but it was a mess. It was old school. They put the cage up and everything. That was fine. There was a cool superplex into a Falcon Arrow. And there were some good spots, but Dominik has done well up to this point. I know it's his first cage match. This was slop. No. It wasn't the worst thing I've seen, but it wasn't all that good. He hits multiple stomps. Rollins, that is, gets a victory. And then Rollins brutalizes Murphy, just runs him into the cage wall and everything and beats him up. And then they have where it looked like Aaliyah was going over to Murphy. And somebody speculated that there might be a romance. Let me tell you something right now. Aaliyah, I believe, is 19. I think she just turned 19. I'm not too sure. I know she was 10. She was 9 or 10 years old when they did the CM Punk Happy Birthday thing. And that was March of 2010. Okay, so she's maybe 19. Guys, let's not do the romance thing. Maybe Aaliyah's like, hey, wait a second. Murphy might actually be a good person. We get Murphy away from Rollins. We could have Murphy go out and do his own thing. And then Murphy could lose a bunch of matches because that's all they're having Murphy fucking do is lose matches. No, we're not pitching a romance angle here. And goddamn WWE, if they happen to do that, that would be fucking stupid. Fucking stupid to do that. So we then get Raw Underground, Dolph and Riddick Moss, because everybody doesn't want to see that. And then Braun has his fisting gloves ready and brutalizes everybody. And then Charlie is nearly at eye level with Drew's Claymore. Have fun on seeing that. And then Drew and Keith have a face-off and everything, and we get a bit of a brawl. And then Pierce says, I'll call the match off if you keep doing this. Or maybe he says that later. And then Braun, and Titus, they brutalize each other on Raw Underground. And then, well, we get Owens versus Aleister Black, and this is proof of where Aleister Black did not, matter one bit, because he just got, he targeted Owens' knee, and then just got destroyed. lights are out because the group that calls themselves Retribution has a light switch. Ha ha ha. We're just flipping the light switch. We're flipping the light switch and being stupid. Seriously, Vince McMahon needs to be put in a goddamn retirement home. Just buy out his stock and just send him away. I don't know who the fuck could run it better, but they couldn't run it any goddamn worse. At least creatively. I mean, fucking hell. And get rid of Bruce Pritchard and get rid of Kevin Dunn. There were 80 camera cuts during one of these matches. 80 camera cuts. Kevin Dunn is bad at his job. Moving on. Owens beats him with a stunner after the lights go out because Retribution's just like, we're going to mess with the electrical bill. And then Drew and Keith fist each other some more. And then that's when Pierce said, I'll call the match off. Shayna and Nia on commentary. Ruby and Liv versus Natty and Lana. Ruby Rabbit is what somebody said at one point on commentary. Lana gets pinned. That's the best use for her, is just laying down and doing nothing. Release in the ring, and then, of course, Nia puts her through the announcer's table, and nothing of value was lost. Get Lana out of the ring. Just get her out of the fucking ring. And then we have more Raw Underground with Braun and Baba Tunde. Or Tunde, or, it's a Tunde. Yes, it is. There we go. Team Ali up with them. Ali Baba Tunde. Well, I mean, why the fuck not? They might as well do that. They've done everything else offensive. No, actually, I think Ali and Baba Tunde would be a pretty good team. And then we get Drew's Claymore versus Keith's BBC. And, Retribution shows up and fucking ruins the whole goddamn thing. And I don't even know why. I don't know why people would invest 3 hours in this. I debate why I do. But it's because I'm so dedicated to watching this stuff and seeing if something good is going to happen. And occasionally, something good does happen. And then everything crashes down to earth because Retribution and so much other creative is just fucking killing Raw. Because Vince McMahon doesn't care about putting on a compelling television show anymore. Hurt Business shows up. It's 4 on 2, or it's 4 on like a billion. And then Drew and Keith, after being beat down, suddenly do dueling dives, and that's where the show goes off. So that's the end of that right there. It's a group that calls themselves Retribution. It is the worst thing to happen to wrestling, at least a wrestling program this year. Agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.